Peter Parker is always going to be our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Who are you?
You know who I am.
I do.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Nothing will change that for us. However, there have been some others in the Marvel Universe who've donned the red and blue costume. Strap on your web slinger because we're going to dive into the web and see who else has been Spider-Man. If you aren't a subscriber already, take a moment before we start to click CBR's subscription button. Do it once and you're done for life. Kraven the Hunter. One of Spider-Man's earliest enemies in the comic books was Sergei Kravenov. Sergei's skills include being a world-class hunter, famous for taking down dangerous animals with his bare hands.
This magnificent creature is the key to my immortality.
Eventually, this doesn't satisfy his hunting needs. He wants to find a harder, bigger animal to hunt down, so he decides that hunting down and defeating Spider-Man will be the ultimate trophy on his wall. Kraven pursues the web-slinger time and time again, continuously being defeated and becoming increasingly frustrated and depressed with every passing year. This all changes in the storyline Kraven's Last Hunt, wherein Kraven takes down Spider-Man with a coma-inducing drug, buries Peter underground, and then takes his place as Spider-Man. As the real Spider-Man remains unconscious beneath the dirt for 2 long weeks, Kraven's Spider-Man becomes a terrifying creature of the night and brutally beats criminals, trying to prove that he's the better Spider-Man than Peter could ever be. When Parker finally breaks free from being buried alive, Kraven relinquishes the role, feeling that his point has been made, and releases the supervillain Vermin for Spider-Man to pursue. As Spider-Man tracks down Vermin, Kraven shoots himself with a rifle, feeling that his life is now complete. Deadpool. Spider-Man and Deadpool are Marvel's 2 most popular characters of all time. You can check out some of our other videos about the 2 superheroes after you finish this one, of course. Both Peter and Wade are total jokesters. It's no wonder they've had many amusing interactions since they first met. The uber-responsible Peter Parker's disdain for Deadpool's homicidal tendencies contrasts heavily against Wade Wilson's desperate crush on the web-slinger, and the similarity between their costumes is hard not to notice. In fact, on one occasion when Spidey is knocked out, he and Deadpool switch costumes, or rather, Deadpool takes advantage of the unconscious Spidey and takes his costume, at which point Wilson goes after the chameleon and has fun pretending to be Spider-Man for a while. But perhaps the best Spider-Man-Deadpool crossover of all time was years before this, back in Deadpool Volume 1, number 11, wherein Wade and his friend hostage, Blind Al, are sent back in time to the pages of 1967's Amazing Spider-Man number 47. As Blind Al takes the place of Aunt May, Deadpool makes use of an image inducer to pretend to be the random guy in May's photo, a guy who just so happens to be Peter Parker. Miguel OHara. In a dystopian version of the year 2099, the United States has been overtaken by mega-corporations. New York City schools, police forces, crime rings, and media are dominated by a company called Alchemax. Miguel OHara is a rebellious and solitary man who works as the head of Alchemax's genetics programs, attempting to create super soldiers. After a subject dies, Miguel tries to resign from the project, but is instead forced to take a drug called Rapture, a drug only sold by Alchemax, turning Miguel into an addict dependent on the company for survival. Miguel attempts to rewrite his DNA to escape from this chemical addiction. Sabotage from a coworker causes Miguel's genetic code to be rewritten as 50% spider DNA, granting Miguel new spider-like abilities. Miguel clads himself in a Mexican Day of the Dead costume and becomes the Spider-Man of his age, using his newfound powers to take down the Alchemax megacorporation and bring down its head, Tyler Stone. Sometime after melting of the polar ice caps kills most of humanity, Miguel is sent back in time to the present day, where he becomes stranded. Accepting his new state, Miguel carefully monitors the present-day version of Alchemax, working to improve the present-day world without becoming Spider-Man again, but occasionally being pulled back into the action. Mayday Parker, Spider-Girl. In the comic books, there is a possible alternate future where Mayday Parker is the daughter of Mary Jane and Peter Parker. He retires from being Spider-Man after losing his leg in the ultimate battle against the Green Goblin. Raised in a normal, happy household, May begins to exhibit her father's spider-like powers when she becomes a teenager. When Harry Osborn's son becomes the new Green Goblin and threatens May's family, blaming Peter for the death of his father and grandfather, Mayday dons Ben Reilly's old Spider-Man costume to become Spider-Girl and save the day. Spider-Girl quickly establishes herself as a valuable member of the superhero community. She has the skills of her father with a female outlook on the position. She forms friendships with the Avengers, the Fantastic Five, and more groups. Like her father, Mayday struggles to maintain a balance between her regular high school life and her superheroic activities, though she's helped by the fact that, unlike Peter, she could save her family at the beginning of her vigilante career, and is thus not motivated by the same guilt that drove him. As Spider-Girl, Mayday confronts new versions of many Spider-Man's classic foes. The Space Phantom. The late Dwayne McDuffie's Beyond is a miniseries that drops a wacky variety of mismatches, superheroes, and supervillains onto a planet called Battleworld. It is a fun concept that matches up characters you've always wanted to see together but never thought it would happen. In this world, there are a variety of characters that are forced to fight. Some of the characters include Spider-Man, Venom, Medusa, the Wasp, Hank Pym, and Gravity. They are told by a cosmic entity known as the Beyonder that they must slay all their enemies. If they do that, they can claim their rewards. The first issue then ends with a twist, as Venom wastes no time murdering Spider-Man on the end of his pointed tail. However, the truth is far weirder than it appears. As the heroes roam Battleworld, Alyosha Kravenov stumbles upon a still-alive Spider-Man who tells him that he needs to kill the others so that he can win the prize. Kravenov immediately smells the deception and takes down Spider-Man, who is then revealed to actually be the Space Phantom, an alien being that can impersonate any single being or object. After more strange reveals, the group eventually makes their way back to Earth. SpiderX. Who can forget the demonic Spider-Man imposter known as SpiderX? He was once mistaken for being the real Spider-Man. Although the demonic part does not imply it, the SpiderX does come from innocent beginnings. As a boy, Brian Cornfield idolizes superheroes as much as any real-life fan, even going as far as writing them personal letters. Out of all the superheroes, his idol is, of course, Spider-Man. After his mother is brutally assaulted by a mugger, he does what any wannabe heroes might do. He does his best to avenge her. However, his thirst for vengeance is amplified when he's transformed by an agent of the demon Thonic into SpiderX, a twisted personification of desire to be like his hero. SpiderX's mystical powers allow him to replicate all of Spider-Man's abilities with bizarre variations, as well as possessing sharp fangs and other strange powers. Brian's obsession with justice is amplified by Titan's black magic, and he violently murders the mugger who attacked his mother, then follows this by attempting to kill others. This leads him into conflict with the Ghost Rider, and then the Night Stalkers, until he's eventually killed trying to overtake an electrical monster known as Zax. Dr. Octopus. When Otto Octavius discovers that he is dying, his villainous plans become bolder and more desperate. In a final effort to hold onto his life, Doc Ock swaps minds with Spider-Man. He traps Peter within his failing body while he is restored in Peter's. Peter fails at reclaiming his own body. He does manage to bludgeon Octavius with his most painful memories, forcing Octavius to have empathy and to accept his responsibilities and values that Peter has always held. As Peter seemingly dies in Octavius's body, Octavius decides he will combine his genius ambition with Peter's values. Octavius redesigns Spider-Man's costume and weapons, pursues the PhD that the real Peter gave up on, and is far more ruthless and violent than Peter was. Torn between his good intentions and his megalomaniacal nature, Octavius is also haunted by Peter's spirit, still lingering deep within the body's subconscious and trying to reclaim control. Octavius finally realizes his mistakes when Peter briefly reassumes control to save a child from a runaway train, an action that Octavius hesitates to perform, and a telling moment which reveals Peter to truly be the superior Spider-Man out of the two of them. Doc Ock willingly erases his own consciousness from Peter's body, allowing Peter to once again be in control, sacrificing his existence so that Peter can live again. Miles Morales. Possibly the most headline-making alternate Spider-Man of all time, the first appearance of Miles Morales caused a huge splash. It was featured on NPR, CNN, and NBC. In Marvel's Ultimate Universe, a parallel reality to the mainstream Marvel universe that has been highly influential on the movies, Miles is 13. He's from Brooklyn. He is the son of a Puerto Rican mother and an African-American father. Though a genetically altered spider bite endows Miles with a familiar set of arachnid abilities, Miles is uncomfortable with the idea of risking his life to become a hero. When a battle between the ultimate version of Peter Parker and the Green Goblin ends with Spider-Man being killed, Miles realizes that he could have saved Peter if he had gotten involved. Miles adopts his fallen hero's identity, becoming the new Spider-Man of his world. In our world, Miles became so popular that he is an interdimensional crossover with Peter Parker. Though the Ultimate Universe was eventually wiped out of existence, Miles and his family were salvaged from it. Today, Miles swings in the same world as an older, alternate version of the man who first inspired him to become a hero. hero. He could even be popping into the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the very near future. Possibly. Venom, Mac Gargan. What kind of a list would this be if we didn't include the Mac Gargan version of Venom? He's played a very important role in Spider-Man's history and deserves to be recognized for it. As we all know, the cancer-ridden and morally conflicted Eddie Brock sells his alien symbiote off at a supervillain auction. Can you imagine all the cool stuff you could find at a supervillain auction? Brock intends to donate his proceeds to charity. The extraterrestrial life form briefly flirts with Angelo Fortunato. Eventually, it bonds to Mac Gargan, the Scorpion. As the new Venom, Gargan is dominated by the symbiote desires, far more than Brock had been, bringing out cannibalistic tendencies. Venom is then enlisted by Norman Osborn to be part of his Dark Avengers, a villainous hit squad masquerading in the guises of famous heroes. His symbiote is treated by Osborn to more closely resemble the black-suited Spider-Man instead of its naturally more monstrous form. Along with Osborn becoming Iron Patriot, Bullseye portraying Hawkeye, and Dakin becoming Wolverine, and Venom is reintroduced to the world as the new Spider-Man. Gargan's career as Spider-Man is short-lived. After the Dark Avengers are taken into custody, the symbiote is forcibly removed from him, and Gargan has since returned to his original identity as Scorpion. Ben Reilly. The Clone Saga was one of the longer-running Spider-Man stories. After the villainous Jackal perfects his cloning experiments, he creates multiple clones of his archenemy. He pits the first successful one against Peter. This clone, feeling sure he is the original, is seemingly killed in action. Then, after convincing himself that he's a clone and desiring not to interfere in Peter's life, disappears into the shadows. Renaming himself Ben Reilly, the clone lives a nomadic experience for many years until he learns of Aunt May's failing health. Finally revealing himself to the original Peter Parker, Ben returns to New York. When Mary Jane becomes pregnant, Peter allows Ben to assume the role of Spider-Man. As Spider-Man, Ben begins a new life, remaking the spider costume in a modern style, dyeing his hair blonde, and working in a coffee shop. However, everything becomes complicated when both Peter Parker and Ben Reilly are deceived into believing that Ben is the original and Peter is the clone, meaning that both have been living the wrong lives for years. However, this is revealed as a falsehood when Ben is killed by the Green Goblin. His body rapidly decomposes in Peter's arms, thus revealing that Ben has been a clone the whole time and Peter is the genuine original.
Gotta say, that's awesome.
Hey there, web slingers. Could you imagine how cool being Spider-Man would be? What would you do with your new Spidey sense? Write us in the comments below and let us know what you're thinking. Thank you for watching, and before you watch the next CBR video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up to show your love. And subscribe if you haven't already to catch even more entertaining videos from CBR's playlist.